Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This episode we're going to be talking about PMF, or Poor Man's Fiberglass. This is what we decided to use to cover our trailer to make it waterproof. I had not really heard about Poor Man's Fiberglass before jumping into this project of building this trailer. And in what little research I've done, PMF, or Poor Man's Fiberglass, is a technique that's been around for quite a while, well over 100 years. And it's the art of taking canvas. In this case, I used a Home Depot purchased medium grade canvas tarp or drop cloth to cover the trailer with. And then you glue it to your surface, and then you paint it, and the paint makes the fabric waterproof. And I looked into it a little bit, and I found out that canvas-covered boats being painted on the outside to make them waterproof, there's patents for these boats that go all the way back to 1870s. That was surprising to me. There's even some old 1920s, 1930s canoes that were a wood frame covered in canvas, and then they used enamel paint to paint the outside to make them waterproof. And also airplanes. The original Wright Flyer that dates back to 1903 that the Wright brothers built. It was a wooden frame covered in canvas that was painted to make it waterproof. So this technique goes back a long, long ways. So I started researching it for our project, and I found two really good videos, in my opinion, really good videos. One of them is Adrian Woodworm. He covers Poor Man's Fiberglass in his tiny houseboat build, episode 25. And another one is the Elwood by Lucy, who has a Poor Man's Fiberglass tutorial video. And I'll do my best to link both of those videos in the description below. I will say that I'm not the most technological person around, so I may have difficulty with that, but I'm going to do my best. What I liked about those videos is Adrian Woodworm did a lot of looking into it and test phases with PMF to see if that's what he wanted to use on the cabin of his houseboat. He talked about the whole of the houseboat being in water as long as it would be. He actually used regular fiberglass for it. But the cabin, he was looking for something lightweight, waterproof, easy to work with, and relatively cost-effective. And he did a test with a sample board where he had glued a section of, I think it was 6-inch plastic pipe to a PMF sample that he had done, and kept that pipe full of water for at least the first 6 months of that sample's life. And then the sample actually sat outside for 2 or 3 years before he actually tested it and showed it on his video. And it was amazing how well the fabric held up. The Elwood by Lucy, in her tutorial about PMF, she has some really good ideas about laying it down, making sure you iron it, and all the different steps in the process. So with what we were trying to do with the trailer, trying to keep it cost effective, tin siding, fiberglass siding, any of that would get into the thousands of dollars quick. And I will say, basic dimensions of the box of our trailer, it's a little over 6 foot tall at its tallest point. It's 13.5 feet long, and it's just over 7 feet wide. So it's not a teardrop by any stretch of the imagination. It's a bigger trailer than that. And looking at all that, we decided PMF would be the best route. And even being cost effective, when you look at the paint gets expensive. One of the processes that just about everybody I viewed with PMF did was, for the first couple of coats of paint you put on the drop cloth after you have it glued onto your trailer, is to water your paint down so it soaks into the fibers of the canvas better. And we went through more than a 5-gallon bucket of paint to do the initial coat of white on our trailer. You'll see later on we actually did a 2-tone color. And right now I am at 7 gallons of paint I have purchased for this trailer. And you'll see as we progress what paints we did and the color we chose and the design and all that. But so this is not cheap. The drop cloths were not cheap. They were, I think, right off the top of my head, $25 or $30 a piece for the 9x12s, and we used several of the 9x12s on the front, back, and tops of the trailer. In the sides of the trailer, I had purchased 12x15 tarps, hoping to do the side as all one solid piece. Well, when we got the 12x15 tarp out, they had a seam where they had joined 2 sections of tarp right down the middle of that. So we cut that seam out because it was way too thick for what we wanted to do. So we ended up with an overlap on the sides. Again, you'll see that as the video progresses. And we're going to use that for a design feature. But from the front to the back of the trailer, we have no seams by going with the 12x15 canvas drop cloths. So when you add all of this together, it was in the hundreds of dollars to buy the glue. We used Titebond 2 glue to glue the canvas onto the trailer. We used 2 12x15 tarps on each side, and then we ended up using 3 of the 9x12s to cover the front, back, and top of the trailer. I'm really happy with the way it came out. I'm just letting you know that even though this is more cost effective than other siding that we could have done, it's still not super cheap. Some of the things I like about it is I like the looks. I like the texture of it. I think it came out really, really well. We took some extra time in working with it. We'll discuss that here in a little bit. But I like the fact there's no, if you look at a standard RV, a lot of your either laminated or tin-sided trailers have a trim piece going on the corner of your travel trailer to join the 2 sides together. And in that, they caulk it on, there's screws going in on both sides, and then there's a rubber piece of trim that goes over it to cover the screw holes. I've never been all that keen on that look, but I understand why it's there. I understand why they do it. Using PMF, we did a 2-inch overlap on the corners, so I have a full 2-inch overlap of the canvas, and it's all glued together. It's all painted, so it's all waterproof. And in doing the seams like we did in the corners, there's no need for a corner trim, so we won't have that. And I really like the looks of the way it came out. But so that's basically what we decided to do. And now we'll get into actually putting it on and showing you that process. Definitely not going to hurt anything. Well, we spent some time prepping the trailer. We sanded it all down. We used filler on all the screw heads and the joins of all the different sheets of plywood for the exterior walls. And if you notice around the window openings, it looks kind of wet or varnished. I came across a Total Boat penetrating epoxy product that I thought would be really, really good around any openings to help seal the wood from any moisture. Since, this is going to be outside, it's going to be camping, and even though I'm doing everything I can to prevent it from leaking, I can't guarantee that it won't leak. So I'm doing every step I can to help protect the wood so it doesn't rot. So all the openings, windows, doors, pass-through, water heater, all of the holes, I used that Total Boat penetrating epoxy around. And then we did all the filler, we sanded the filler, we put a second coat of filler, we sanded all that, then we started the PMF. To prepare for the PMF, we took all of the tarps home, we washed them, dried them in the washer and dryer, then we ironed them. My goodness, thank you, Sonia, that was a ton of work. She used our kitchen counter, and our kitchen counter wasn't quite big enough, so it took several passes. It was hours of nothing but ironing just to get all of our tarps ironed before we tried to put them on. This is our first attempt. When I did the first attempt, we did nothing more than get the Titebond glue in a paint tray. We got a roller. I used a 1/2-inch deep nap roller to help grab as much glue as possible. And we spread the glue out, and we spread the tarp over the glue. While we were ironing it, I can't talk, and smoothing it with our hands, it seemed to get ripples and bubbles in the tarp really, really, really easy. And in some sections, it had appeared like the glue had already dried on the plywood and wasn't really grasping the tarp fabric very well at all. And even though we ironed it, which is supposed to help activate the glue, we were a little concerned about it. We came back the next day after this first attempt, and we found that it didn't hold very well at all. We were able to pull that first sheet off relatively easy. There was a couple of spots that gripped really well. We ended up damaging the surface of the plywood just a little bit by pulling the first layer of the ply up. But we were able to smooth that out, sand it down. We were actually able to use that same piece of canvas tarp a second time on our second attempt. But just for info, it takes a bit to prep the tarp to be ready, and we learned some tips that we will discuss on this second attempt. Here we go with round 2. So we did some research, did some looking into it, tried to come up with some ideas. In talking with our friend Stan, who's loaning us his shop and has been a great help through this whole process, he mentioned that when he glues 2 pieces of plywood together, he was taught a technique to mist the plywood with water from a spray bottle. Just mist it, don't get it like soaking wet or anything. And that helps to open the cells of the plywood to accept the glue better, keeps the glue more wet during the process of putting them together and clamping them, and you'll get a better glue process and less delamination. And I know we're not gluing plywood to plywood here, but we took that idea. We did water bottle with just normal water, just lightly misted the area that we were going to glue. And this time also I put a lot more glue on. When we did this second round using those techniques, the canvas tarp laid so much smoother. It stuck from the get-go. You could feel a much better adhesion. We had so little bubbles. It laid super, super flat. That's one thing I have really liked about the looks of the PMF on the trailer. I have to admit I was a little hesitant on it as to how it was going to look, because I know I'm not a professional grade RV manufacturing company. My stuff's not going to look as nice, but I still want it to look good. And I was very, very happy with the final product that we have. You'll just have to wait to see that when we get it painted. That video's coming soon, so hang tight. But really happy with the way it came out. Just doing the misting and putting more glue on was the key. And we really didn't have much of a problem through the rest of the gluing down of the tarps on the trailer. So we'll get into it, and we'll let you watch this. Enjoy our process of getting this PMF on, and thanks a lot for coming along, and I'll share some more as we get close to the end of this video. Well, putting on the second coat now. It is amazing how much different it looked from the first to the second, as the first soaked into the fibers so much. I ended up putting a total of 5 coats of paint, 2 thinned out, 3 normal coats on the entire trailer before I installed any of the windows or vents. But that'll have to wait for another video. Thanks everybody for coming on my channel and watching these videos, taking time out of your busy day. I hope you're enjoying this build, and can't wait to put out the next one and show you what the next phase is and how it's looking. Thanks for watching.